All right, welcome to the Plant Mapping Meetup. We are a group of plant mapping professionals from a variety of fields and backgrounds for the purpose of networking, sharing, learning, and teaching where we can, and much more. We have formal quarterlies where we record our speakers like today, and casual tea times for off-the-record shop talk and more. My name is Jenna Portanova, and I'm the Chief Collections, Research, and GIS Manager at the Houston Botanic Garden. I've recently stepped up as your fearless leader, so Jamie, our current VP, can have more time for equally awesome projects. This group is only great because of its members, and we thank you for your engagement. I'll turn it over next to Jamie.
Yeah, we want to advance a slide.
Sure.
Cool. So we always just do our little statement of purpose. The Plant Mapping Meetup Group is a community for all plant mapping professionals, regardless of industry, to discuss content, software, or methodology and share innovative solutions. And yeah, we just sort of offer a chance to kind of go through the leadership roster. So Jenna gave our great introduction, and many thanks to her for taking over the helm. I am Jamie Fry. I am the now sitting vice chair until somebody comes out of the woodwork and wants to take that position for me. And I was chair for quite a long amount of time, and I love and appreciate this group. We want to move on to our next group of leaders just to say a quick hey. Carolyn, you want to go next?
I'm Carolyn Miller, kind of doing the communications work, and I really enjoy working with all these folks.
And then John, are you on the call yet?
Hello, hi.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm John. I am the mentorship coordinator. We're initiating a mentorship program where we match people who want to be mentees with maybe more experienced people who want to be mentors. And right now we have 8 people signed up, although I haven't matched them yet. I will be working on that. And if you're interested in this, I will send a link to the form you can fill out in the chat. So there it is. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, John. And normally we would have Laura with us too, who's our coordinator and or our education coordinator. So Laura is the one that brings in all of the fantastic speakers for our quarterly call and is all around awesome hype human. So we can go to the next slide. I think John sort of mentioned the mentorship program and put that form in the chat. So if you're interested in either being a mentor or a mentee, please fill out the form and we will get this program up and going. And back to you, Jenna, for the tech tip, I think.
Yes, there we go. Sorry, I was on mute. So I will quick start with Field Calculator. Those of you that are familiar with GIS, you may know that you can view your features, attributes, much like a regular database of table. And there are some great features known as Calculate Field. So I'll go ahead and hit play for the QGIS demo. There is a nice feature that allows you to not just calculate numbers or your coordinates, but you could reformat your text. So let's say everything is in uppercase and you need it to be proper case. That is what this slide is showing you here. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a real quick demo with ArcGIS if technology cooperates. But as you can see, you can switch it back and forth however you wish to edit your string. So one of those in a pinch of needing to finesse your data, you can do it right there within the environment of GIS. All right, let's see. Can you guys see the GIS screen now that I've switched? Did that work? Or do I need to switch it back?
You need to switch it again. I think we're still on the general tech tip one.
Perfect. Let me do that. Now do you see GIS?
Yeah, there we go.
Is it super tiny or can you see?
There you go. That's better.
Okay, great. So what I'm showing you here is one of our location feature services. And as you can see right now, these are all in proper case. I can also make them all uppercase should I need that for import into another system. You can always enable undo if you are unsure, but once you've selected which column you're looking at, so in this case, it's the location description. I'm using an arcade expression. I've selected the string variable upper, and I've told it that it's this feature. I hit apply. It does its magic. Hold, please. It's changing 716 features, so it takes a little bit of time.
We need some good hold music.
Yes. Oh, so this is good. This is good that it did this. As you can see, the one that's highlighted is the only one that changed because I forgot and had some things selected. So I'm going to go ahead and click undo. So this demo is a little bit exactly what would happen in the real world because you're looking at a feature and you forget to unselect it. Um, in the chat, everyone vote Y or no if you've used Field Calculator before and maybe some of the ways that you have used Field Calculator. I think that would be very interesting for others to know. All right, so I am going to unselect all the things and do this again. Apply. There we go. Now you've seen all of them gone to uppercase, although it still says it's calculating. So if there are any questions, feel free to start a discussion. I'm happy to do more, but we want to cede time to the speaker. So I will go ahead and wrap this up and return back to our slide. If I can figure out how to use Zoom again. There we are. All right. So next we have scheduled meeting dates. Anyone want to take that one?
I can. So there are some interesting and important dates coming up. One, actually, the first two are very specific to those who are involved with American Public Gardens Association. So there is call out for sessions right now for the annual conference, and that is running through the end of this month, so October 31st. Now is the perfect time to be talking to your colleagues, figuring out how to team up to make some cool dynamic sessions. Remember that you can be just at the start of a journey and team up with some people who are at the middle or at the end of some kind of project or journey that makes sense with yours, and create a panel or a multidisciplinary group presentation, and those are usually very, very successful in the call for sessions. The other one that is a really great opportunity and is really interesting is the TIPS Virtual Symposium is coming up November 19th through 21st. Registration is open now, and there is a whole block of GIS-centered plant mapping content and sessions. So please go on the website, check those out. It's definitely worth looking at. Because of the holidays, so November and December, the last Thursday, which is normally our tea time, our Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. So we're going to split the difference, and we're going to do our next tea time on December 4th. And we'll get details out on the forum. And then we are in the process of scheduling our next quarterly meetup for January of 2026. And I think Carolyn is going to introduce the Blue Raster folks.
Oh, John has a question real quick.
Hi. I just wanted to say back to the APJ sessions call. I am on the APJ Program Selection Committee where we help recruit people to submit sessions and also evaluate the sessions to choose what actually goes into the conference. So if anyone has questions about that process or wants to get feedback on their session ideas or proposal, you are welcome to write to me. I will put my email in the chat.
John, I forgot that
But,
you were an active program selection committee person. Here I was trying to hype it up as a former PSC member. So thank you for popping in and adding that clarity.
All right, I think we're ready. Welcome, and I'm going to introduce Chris Gabris. He is the program manager leading teams of UI, UX designers, GIS specialists, and application developers at Blue Raster. He has 15 years of GIS experience, including spatial analysis, remote sensing, project task management, marketing, proposal development, and cloud computing services. He holds a MPS in Geographic Information Systems from the University of Maryland and is a certified Geographic Information Systems professional. Welcome, Chris, and it's all yours.
Well, thank you for that intro. You're making me sound really good. It's great to see a lot of you, outside of the APGA conference and these just these routine quarterly meetups. As Carolyn was saying, I lead a team of analysts, and we've got a couple of those here on the call. So they're all going to kind of help me sort of share how we are using ArcGIS to modernize plant mapping workflows at a lot of public gardens that we are supporting. So just a little bit about Blue Raster. So we're a small business. We're headquartered in the Washington, D.C. area, and we've been around for almost 25 years. We are specialists in GIS and web and mobile mapping application development, including design. These could be configurable applications. These could be full-blown custom applications. And our mission, our goal is to help our partners really embrace and utilize the full power of the ever-changing, ever-expanding ArcGIS platform. We are an Esri Gold business partner. So what that means is our applications, our workflows, our solutions are built on top of the ArcGIS platform, and we can provide full service support for anything related to getting an ArcGIS online or enterprise environment stood up with best practices and recommendations. Data management, I'll kind of cover some of these in a little bit, but data management to then advanced analysis and visualizations, and then building out the applications, whether they be internal tools that you use around the grounds for work order management or day-to-day maintenance workflows, or beautiful, well-designed, intuitive, public-facing applications to share your plants, your collections with the world. We've been APGA corporate partners since 2018, and through our work with Esri, we have certain specialties in the nonprofit space, in the state and local government space, as well as for cloud services. So most of the folks in the gardens community are in that nonprofit space. We've found sometimes that gardens are tied to maybe a city or a county or some sort of regional entity. So that state and local government specialty and the work that we do there has also been really applicable for some of the partners that we're working with. So kind of already mentioned these things, so won't go too deep onto them, and our team is going to show great examples of these. But we've been in this space working with public gardens now for over 15 years, starting with the U.S. National Arboretum right here in our backyard in the D.C. area, and have been expanding that work with gardens large and small across the country, some tied to universities. So really great list of partners and customers that we're proud to partner with every day. So Carolyn did a great job just kind of introducing me. I want to just introduce a couple other folks on my team that you've either met maybe through the conference or will be here presenting alongside me. So Andy Bell is our GIS team lead. He's got a conflict today, so is unable to make it. But he's been attending the APGA annual conference with me the past couple of years, and maybe you've had a chance to have some conversations with him. Alongside me today, I have my great analyst team of Andrew Patterson and Alicia Glassman, who, as they get to their sections, we'll let them do a little bit of a quick intro and maybe speak to some of the gardens that they're specifically supporting and what they like about the workflows that we're doing there. So we're a plant mapping meetup group. We're already spatial minded. We already know about mapping and GIS, but just to reiterate, why GIS? What is so important about GIS and how it relates to, our gardens and our collections? Plant records are inherently spatial. They have a location. In many cases, they're surveyed. or they're being mapped to, some sort of garden bed, but there is some sort of tie back to a place, and some attribution that allows us to put them on a map and to do great interaction through these applications with them. Plant records are dynamic, both in the sense of the condition, but also the records are always changing because things are being moved around. One of the things as I started working with public gardens years ago is I was shocked at how many, plant records are mapped and remapped and moved around, throughout its life. So GIS is a great way to see what's currently the location of these, but also to be able to track the historic information and the location of these plant records. Um, People work with these records out in the field, away from their desks, and mobile GIS solutions is a tremendous way to be able to take the technology out into the field with you, to be able to capture information and photos right at the source, and not have to necessarily log it on, pen and paper and then come back and enter it into some sort of database or repository. You can, kind of have some automation, remove some of the duplicate workflows by taking the technology out into the field with you. And then just ways to be able to visualize and search these vast collections across the gardens. GIS has the ability to do that at many different scales and many different visualization tips and techniques, and our team will go into some of that here, so that when people are trying to search or see on a map these collections, they're not visually overwhelmed, but they can be designed to be intuitive. And using some of those best practices are things that we'll show. And then in case it hasn't been brought up in recent meetings, there's extremely discounted software from Esri for these ArcGIS products that are needed for everything that we're going to show, that's eligible for nonprofit organizations. So I think we'll have some links at the end that will talk about that. But if you're not aware of that, or you're not currently taking advantage of that discounted software, talk to me or, whoever your connections are at Esri, and make sure that if this has been a barrier, that the technology and the cost of the technology has been a limitation, that, there are a lot of advantages, as being a nonprofit, that Esri can offer when it comes to that. So I just wanted to take a couple minutes to do a quick poll. I think it's only 2 questions. So if folks want to either scan the QR code or log in at menti.com and punch in that 8-digit code, I will enable the 2 questions, and we'll just take a look and get a little bit more background on the just sort of what our audience is here. So I'll swing this screen over here so that everybody can still see it, if this is still sharing. We'll give it a few seconds here. Is the browser coming up, or is it still in the PowerPoint mode?
Nope, looks good. It's the browser.
Excellent. All right, so we've got 16 on the call. We've got close to that in. So yeah, this is great. The fact that everybody here is currently using ArcGIS in some capacity, and most people for multiple years are longtime users, that's really great to see. So, as I said, I knew coming in that this audience is already very, has a high GIS aptitude, and hopefully some of the things that we'll be showing here will be, something new and interesting to take away from that. So I'm going to advance this to the next slide. I guess I need to go into present mode and go into the next one here. Here we go. So this is a word cloud. I think these are more fun. It doesn't kind of lead the witness with like what we enter in here. So just real simple. What are you using ArcGIS for? We'll give it about 30 seconds for people. You can enter in multiple different answers here. All right, we'll give it about 10 more seconds, but definitely mapping and field. So being out in the out of the office, out in the field seems to be a theme. Definitely seeing a couple other things on here like story maps and other specific applications on the platform. Um, I love seeing things on here like tours. I'm curious if how you're using ArcGIS to create tours, if that's through like a story map template or something else. But this is excellent. Dashboards is great too. I'm curious if that's more for internal workflows or if you're doing anything that, sharing with the public in a dashboard format. But I'll leave this open. We can come back to it. People can continue to put stuff in there, but this is excellent. And with that, I think the next slide is where I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Alicia. She's going to take over the screen share here, and we're going to get into now, how our team is working with gardens to build applications that are configurable for mostly public viewers. And we wanted to kind of narrow our focus because a lot of the work that we do could be for internal workflows. It could be full-blown custom application development. But what our hope is from this discussion, from these demos, is that there's something here that everybody could walk away with and say, this is a configurable workflow. I could do this at my garden, today with what I have available to me. So with that, I will stop sharing. I'll turn it over to Alicia to show some cool examples.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Alicia Glassman. I am a GIS analyst on the Blue Raster team. Chris has sort of roped me into his plant mapping interest, and I do a lot of our public app development, specifically in Experience Builder, which, if you aren't super familiar, is Esri's like low code to no code application building feature. It sort of, instead of like dashboards, it looks a little bit more like a website. We'll go into some of the specifics, but I'm just kind of going to go through some of my process in terms of building these applications from the ground up, things I've sort of gleaned from working with various gardens and whatnot. And I'm going to start with data. It seems like all of you are using GIS to some extent already, but sometimes folks aren't. A lot of times what I've seen is gardens have a lot of their data in CAD, which is spatial and luckily it can very easily be converted into GIS. So I just wanted to point this out for folks who don't know. ArcGIS Pro has a native feature to bring in files from CAD and convert those into GIS layers that can be published online and used in a public application or even just for your own internal reference. The data on the screen is from Hahn Horticulture Garden out of Virginia Tech. And they just had some CAD data of things like buildings and garden beds, canopy cover, things like that. And we were pretty quickly able to convert that over to GIS for them, just to give more context and grounding in their application. So even if you don't have things mapped in GIS specifically, you probably have something that can be converted into a form of GIS data. The rest of this is mostly going to be talking about sort of experience builder tips or functionalities that are built in that you might not totally be familiar with. First are splash screens. So like when you go to a web tool and it gives you a list of instructions that go around the screen, that's what this is. I think as people who are really enmeshed in this process day to day, we tend to take for granted how much intuitively comes to us with this. Like, I'm sure if you're greeted with a set of plant data, you sort of know what that's going to look like. And for me, like making these applications, there are only so many ways that they can be laid out. I know the general concept of, how to use them, but somebody who doesn't work in this day to day probably isn't going to have that idea. And if we put a lot of work into these apps, I think it's important to point out both like who you are and also how you use the tool you've built. So here I just have a pretty simple one. This is all just regular text, no fancy scripts, listing the different icons of different pages in the application and what they actually do, just to explain that to the user. And then they're able to reference that while using the application. And this is a native feature. You just add a window on top of your page, which I'll show you what the back end of Experience Builder looks like in a few slides. I promise it's not scary. Another thing that right out of the box is configured for you when you're building an app are map actions. So this is a little GIF of like interactability between 3 different widgets in a specific application. In this one, there's a search widget, there's a map, and then there's a table that's popping up there at the bottom. When you type in a search term, in this case, we're searching based on the name of a plant. It is basically querying all of that data that's in the map and automatically filtering it. So when I type in something like lilac, it's filtering every plant that has the word lilac in its name. You can search for specific plants as well. You can search for broad terms like that, either way. And it actually filters down that map and that table, which allows for, a more seamless use. If I were to type in lilac and nothing happened on the map, I might be confused. I feel like I would be when I do something on a website and then nothing happens. And then it also gives that table view, which a lot of folks might be more comfortable with if you're working in, say, like Excel normally, or like a database structure. Okay, next I'm going to talk about pop-ups, which is essentially just Esri's term for when I click on something, what do I see? This is going a little bit more into the low code side of no code, low code, but I'm also going to show you how you can do this without any fancy coding. So on the left is a pop-up for a plant center in that same application that I was showing in the last slide. So you can see there's like these green boxes around it. It looks a little bit more fancy than it might out of the box. That's being done using HTML and CSS, which Esri pop-ups are friendly with pretty much every HTML, CSS layout that you can have. And then it's just pulling that information in there. And then at the bottom, you can see there are some images of the flowers and the bark for this specific plant. Those were collected long before we started developing this application. The application itself is hosted in ArcGIS Enterprise, and the images are being collected in ArcGIS Online. They're being brought in using an arcade script, which is Esri's like proprietary coding language, basically building that URL out to then embed those images in. So if you're collecting information and it's not necessarily all in one place, you might still be able to work with it, is sort of my takeaway from this. On the right side, we have a sort of point of interest pop-up. That one has a bit less code in it. That pretty normal like styling that you can do in the text editor itself. The one thing I want to point out is the audio embed that you can sort of see in the middle with that play button. That is being pulled in using a URL that is being generated using Arcade, and then embedded using HTML. But you can do this with basically any link. If you already have a row in the table that has links, you could have a button that clicks out to that. A use case that we've done is using Google Maps. You can generate a Google Maps link to any latitude and longitude, any specific walking mode, driving, what have you. And then those can be in each individual plant's record using Arcade. So I just kind of want to, expand what we might think is possible out of the box with these products using some more fancy things, but also it doesn't have to be super fancy and coded to still, in my opinion, look quite nice. This is a pop-up from an app for Morris Arboretum and Gardens. There's no code here at all. This was all made using the text editor within the map viewer. So just made the text for the title bigger, italicized the description, and that's really it. So you don't have to be doing fancy coding in order to make things look nice. The product kind of takes that burden for you, but you can definitely stretch the limits of what's possible by using some forms of coding. Okay, so this is the back end of Experience Builder. Like I told you, not scary, no code, cool. What I want to talk about now are showing multiple locations within an Experience Builder. Say you have multiple collections that are in different places, or you want to exhibit different parts of a campus, or in the case of Holden Forest and Gardens, who I've kind of been showing throughout this presentation, you have 3 campuses in very different parts of a region. You're able to have links that will automatically zoom the map on each of those individual pages, all while referencing one map. This means that if you're updating symbology, say I want to change what my trails look like, or I want to add something to the pop-up of my plants, I only have to do it in one place instead of doing it in 3 separate maps, or even updating 3 separate entire apps. So you can see on the left side, there's that page pane here that has each of those pages in them. They're identical copies of the exact same layout. But I just wanted to highlight that you can have multiple pages in an experience builder. You can have a scrollable experience builder. It really does feel like it's very easy to make an experience builder feel almost like a website without having to do all of that, pesky source coding in the background. And this is just a demo of going through the different pages as well. We got a little fancy and have some URL parameters that are doing some extra stuff in the background. You can generate a specific URL that does something like sets a specific zoom extent or even filters the data. I can provide some documentation on this later, but I just wanted to point out that URL parameters can also add some specificity to what you're linking out to as well. Cool. Now I'm going to try to show you that these are like real apps that exist and aren't just me showing you a bunch of pictures. I think it is a lot more compelling when we look at these things working in real time, and I can sort of show you like how all these pieces fit together. So also with the caveat that every time I do a live demo, something might go wrong. So we'll all hope it doesn't. So this is the application I've been showing you screenshots of. This is Flora Finder for Holden Forests and Gardens. And you can see we start here with a splash screen that has information about the campus itself, as well as the different functionalities of the app. We don't have to stop and read it because I'm going to show you. So we can see here on the right side, we have some specific bookmarks within the Arboretum itself. If I click on this one, it'll zoom us into their wildflower garden. And then I'm going to zoom in a little bit more to show you another feature that didn't get highlighted in my presentation, but I think is another cool example of funky stuff you can do with Arcade in pop-ups. So I have this garden bed here. It has 1 point in it, but I mean, I'm looking at it and I think that there's more plants than that in there. If I actually click on this garden bed, you can see a list of all the plants that are in there. This is because Holden keeps a database of all plants, whether or not they are actually physically mapped. So let's say I have some annual flowers that I'm not going to bother and go drop a point for every single one because I know that they'll be dead at the end of the year, but I still keep the data on them just to have. So we're pulling in everything that has this specific garden bed's ID as its location. Once again, a little bit more complicated Arcade, but I think that, it's a cool little feature to show just to sort of stretch our imaginations. Another thing we have are featured plants. This is something that's a pretty common request from gardens. So if I click on our aster over here, it'll zoom me there. My computer's a little slow presenting on Zoom at the same time as doing this. But it'll pull this up and you can see this pop-up that has the information in there as well as the photos of our aster. And so that's a really nice thing to have. Say you want to show these flowers that look super nice. Obviously, they aren't in bloom all year necessarily. And so you can get different images of a plant in different stages, a picture of the individual plant, things like that. Yeah, I think that's all I have from this app. And then I'm going to quickly show you one more app. This is Dow Gardens Digital Map. They have a little bit of a different layout here. Let's see, I didn't refresh the page, so I don't have my splash screen, but there is a splash screen. And I'm not going to refresh it because my computer is being slow. This is the beauty of a live demo. But you can see here we have this list of the points of interest. This is that pop-up that I had showed before. And you can see that image loading in and that audio tour. I don't know if the audio will actually play. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's talking. It's reading the same text as we have in the description. But yeah. And then one more thing I want to show you from this app. Actually, 2 more things I want to show you from this app specifically. One, sometimes you have data and there are multiple ways that you could refer to that thing. For example, a bathroom. You might call it a bathroom, you might call it a restroom, you might call it a toilet, dealer's choice. But you're not going to give it a name that's like bathroom, restroom, toilet, whatever. Instead, you can have another field in your data called keywords. I mean, you can call it whatever. I call it keywords. That has a list of those terms. And then instead, the search is being based off of that field instead of the name. So for example, if I go in here and I type in bathroom, it's going to pull up a list of these points. Now you can see that none of them have bathroom in the actual name, but because I know somebody might search bathroom instead of restroom, I'm able to do this. And I can see where it is. Gosh, my computer does not like that I'm presenting right now. I'm going to do this one more time with another one that I just think is fun. If I type in pig, it'll bring me to Sir Ham-a-Lot, because we know that people might search pig statue and not know his name. But I just wanted to show you this little guy because I think he's cool. And then one more thing that's like an extra little hacky use of Experience Builder is in this app in particular, sometimes we want to be able to see other plants that are similar to the one that I'm looking at. So if I select something like an Eastern White Pine here, it'll give me that pop-up. And then there's this drop-down called Similar Plants, where I was able to pull a list of all plants that share that plant's name. So this is giving me a list of all the other, obviously there's a lot of Eastern White Pines here. Sometimes there are more, sometimes there are less, but it will let me zoom around and see where all of these are located. If I want to go see another one in the garden, this is especially helpful with things like a featured plant. If you want to see more of them while only highlighting one, that's something that you can do. Once again, a little bit hacky. I don't know if Esri would advertise this as a way that you can use their product, but it's definitely, you know, without any coding, I was able to do this. And that's it for my live demo. I have one more slide.
Before moving on, Alicia, if we can go back to the screen, there was two things I wanted to point out. In the DAO example, if you can just kind of zoom out. So we've got a couple slides towards the end that talk about imagery, but a lot of what you're seeing here has like really great imagery that either our teams helped capture and process or was there when we started working with the garden. So even just like little techniques of like masking out, you know, the surrounding area to make the imagery here really pop and stand out and outline the garden is something that you'll see in some of the applications that we've done. And then back in the Flora Finder at Holden, there was a question, could we do like a demo of like searching an area or a plant, like specifically just kind of going through the search process, like typing something into the search box?
Yeah, we don't have like location searching, but we do have plant. So let's say I want to find an oak. Here, it'll filter my map. It still keeps those special plants in because those are in a separate layer. But if you wanted them not to show up, that could also be an option. And you can see here, it's generating a list of a certain number of plants that have oak in the title of them. And this is only searching the ones that are at this specific campus. It's not searching the full data set. And then you also are able to get the tabular version of it down at the bottom.
Yeah, and that tabular list, like you can control what attributes are shown. This is more for like a lot of times like staff workflows or researchers, they may want to get that full list or even export that out to like a CSV or Excel. So giving them that ability to do that. Jenna, did that answer your question about the search?
Oh, yes. I was actually going to see if you could just type in a taxon name and see what happened to your screen.
Yeah, give me an A.
Oh, goodness. I'm on the spot now. I don't know. Just type in Quercus, see what comes up.
Yeah. Same thing.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it's functioning like your regular web maps. I was just curious.
Yeah, you can select which specific fields you want it to be searching off of. It could be all of them. It could be like a subset, whatever you want. All right. I have one more point and then I will turn it over. Sorry if I did not address a question you had. I fully was not looking at the chat or I would stumble over all my words. But I just want to point out, you know, I'm not going out to a public garden and taking my computer with me necessarily if I'm a visitor. But what I do have on me at all times is my phone. And so all of these applications are completely mobile enabled, just out of the box. Like if you make an application on a computer, Experience Builder will automatically scale that to a mobile size for you, but you can also customize what's on the mobile view. Sometimes there are things that you want only to be shown on a computer versus only on a phone. For example, in the bottom right corner of some of these apps, you can see that little like circle icon with the crosshairs. That's a locate me button that will zoom you into your phone's GPS location. And so if I'm on campus, if you guys have internet access at your garden and visitors are using it on their own phones, they can see exactly what's directly around where they are. And so that's a really powerful feature. I never get to demo it because I'm always in an apartment building very far away from the gardens, but I think it's something that tends to really excite people. But speaking of phones and being out in the field, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Andrew, who is going to go over some of our field collection processes.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. I can share my screen, or if you want to keep that up, I can go through the slides as well. As Alicia said, my name is Andrew Patterson. I work pretty intimately with Chris and Alicia on a lot of our gardens projects. I've been with Raster for probably about 7.5 years now. And I'm the field GIS subject matter expert. Spend a lot of time in Survey 123 and field maps, with a lot of interest in configuration of complex collection workflows. So I want to go a little bit into how different gardens are using Survey 123 and field maps in order to manage or modify their collections directly in the field. As Chris had said at the beginning of introduction, something that is unique, I think, to the garden space is that I think we're all very familiar with the fact that most of the work and upkeep for the gardens does not happen in an office. That's very important to be able to have the tools necessary to be able to not only manage our collections, but also keep information about them up to date and current. Um, as Alicia had said in her examples, a lot of what these gardens are doing is maybe not collecting individual points on every single planting, but keeping up-to-date large records of entire garden beds. One example that Alicia showed was when she pulled up the pop-up for Holden Garden, we actually got some of those attachments and images for individual species. When we're collecting data, we have to be cognizant of the size of the data we collect. Storage takes some amount of infrastructure in order to keep our data current and also responsive. So we need to make sure that if we have a collection of 10,000 plants, we're not storing 30,000 images. Over time, if you're trying to serve that out publicly or even use it internally, that's going to become very, very bloated. One of the ways that Holden is actually doing that is they're keeping images in one place and their data in another. One of the questions that came in during Alicia's presentation was, is Holden using an external database? Yes, but at the same time, they're also using ArcGIS Online. So a lot of horticulture institutions are using IrisBG in order to upkeep their true system of record. In Holden's case, we're actually using ArcGIS Online in order to store information directly on the plants. That way I can have a user or a volunteer go out, use Survey 123 to collect images on a specific plant species or a specific accession number. And then we're using Custom Arcade in the pop-ups of the public app to call directly to those collected images. So we don't need to store them in two places, and we're not having to worry about the size of our data. We can use Survey 123 for a lot of different workflows, including making volunteers collection much easier. Data can be smart, surveys can be smart, where someone goes out in the field, we know what is near them. If we have information about scientific name and years and ages of certain plants. We can have our surveys actually work for us, and I can punch in that this is a white oak. And as a volunteer, I might not know the scientific name, but my data does. And I can bring into the survey automatically that a white oak is this genus, this family, this species. Um, and so that's just a couple ways that Survey 123 integrations are very, very helpful to plant GIS specifically, being able to use our data out in the field and make it work for us. The other part of that that goes hand in hand is Survey 123 is mostly form centric. We're seeing a lot of individual uh, field collections. We're interacting mostly in a way that would be familiar to someone using Google Forms or Microsoft Forms. What if I want to see my data on a map while I'm out in the field? Um, we have another offering just available to us using what already comes with ArcGIS, and that's field maps, where Survey 123 is form centric, field maps is map centric. So we are out here seeing our entire collection in the field. I'm able to associate my relative point in space with the collection around me. And similar to Survey 123, we can make these forms smart. We can make them work for us. I can have these forms auto-calculate values, and we can also collect new information using high precision GPS, which is very important when we're making sure that we know exactly where our collection is. The other part about field maps that's very helpful is that you can use it to automate upkeep of both plant records of anything physical in garden. So, for example, Alicia showed us that um, at one of these gardens, we have a very important resident, Sir Hamelot. Well, if Sir Hamelot has to be cleaned at the beginning of every spring and the end of every summer, that can also be integrated into field maps, and we can actually use it to task individuals with field work. And that can all be recorded in GIS, and we understand how that might play directly into our plant collections. You can use it for the same thing if areas have to be replanted or fertilized. All of that can be managed in GIS and kind of served out to users in the field. And that is just a kind of high level overview of some of the field GIS tools we have available. Going to hand it back over to Chris to talk about some of the drone imagery integrations that we've used.
Yep. Thanks, Andrew. And we'll wrap it up here quickly so we have 5+ minutes to be able to answer some of the questions that are in the chat that we missed or anything else that comes out of the discussion. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the gardens that we're working with, are able to have, really kind of recent and high accuracy and really high resolution drone imagery. And so this is a couple examples of what we captured at Holden Forest and Gardens in the spring of 2023, or sorry, 2024. So you've got the main campus on the left, and then the Botanic Garden, more closer to downtown, on the right side. And this imagery can be brought into the public applications. It can be then used for internal workflows. It's a lot easier to do mapping when you've got recent high accuracy, high precision, and leaf off trees in your imagery in some cases, but then also like the benefit of being able just to take really cool photos and videos for promotional and marketing purposes of the grounds. So that was something that both at Holden and on the next slide, if you advance there, Alicia, that we did for Greenwood Cemetery. So here is an example of using that imagery in both a public-facing, kind of browser-based application, but also bringing it into a native mobile app store application. So that same imagery can be used with different layers and different purposes. So you're getting a lot of return on investment when you're capturing that information. And then also, in addition to taking cool like promotional videos and stuff that marketing likes, being able to get other information off of the drone. So in this case, in the bottom left, being able to create like rough 3D models that allow you to, one, just show off, cool, classical, historic architecture, or even in the case of something like, asset management or facility management, being able to have a drone kind of get high resolution pictures of some of these things where you don't have to put a ladder up against this structure and have people climbing on it. Maybe a drone is a, phase one kind of, some quick, asset assessment. And then if something more, invasive is needed, then, and only then, would you have people that are actually interacting and physically touching, some of these structures. So, yeah, that's our presentation. I want to really thank everybody, Carolyn, Jenna, Jamie, Laura, who I know is not here, for giving us the opportunity to come in and talk, and for my team for helping me present. I want to reiterate everything that we were showing here is configurable on that ArcGIS platform. So hopefully there's something that in the work that you're all doing that you could take away from this. And we'd love for the next 5 minutes to answer questions. And if we go over, we'll happily take questions over email or, some other way to discuss, but really appreciate the time and the platform to share this all with you.
Thank you, everyone who presented today. That was wonderful. Carolyn, do you want to take it and field some questions?
Sure. I think you can unmute yourself, maybe raise your hand and I'll just pick them and we can go from there. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, I had a quick question.
Sure.
This is Michael from the Huntington. Great presentation, by the way, Blue Raster. But you mentioned your drone imagery, and I just had a quick question if you provided any multispectral imagery as well. Oh, I guess you just answered that there, Andrew.
Yeah, so for the projects that we've done in the past with drone collection, they've mostly been for being able to showcase whole garden collections and have high resolution base maps so that users can zoom in with pretty significant detail. But depending on the drone hardware, you can absolutely use them and fly the grounds and collect multispectral imagery for more scientific analysis.
Yeah, I mean, we've processed multispectral and LiDAR data. We haven't actually flown a drone that has those sensors on there. The one that we have is just basically for regular imagery. For anybody that has a drone or is rented them, the price escalates quickly when you're kind of tacking on some of those other sensors. But in terms of processing and bringing that data into, internal or eventually public-facing workflows, we've definitely done that, if not for gardens, for some of our other kind of industry customers.
Very cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I know I asked a few in the chat, so I was just trying to pull them up, but I did want to make it clear for everyone that you would need to have a creator license. And, at least it sounds like a half a person to manage this at least. If you guys wanted to add more.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some of that conversation happening. So I think what's great about like these configurable applications, particularly like Experience Builder, is that, when ArcGIS Online or Portal, puts out some of these updates, your applications update with it so that they can stay current in the browser. When you have a custom application, maybe written with JavaScript, as browser requirements change and code versions come out, those do require a lot more in terms of application upkeep and, how the application is being, hosted outside of, the kind of Esri cloud. So when it comes to, and maybe Alicia can speak to this, like we've definitely set up some internal like web map workflows that really easily allow, like for example, the what's in bloom to be changed or images to be changed out or adjusting, a bed or building label. Those things can kind of easily be done within, kind of the web map, kind of platform. And then we do have, some custom API integrations for like the actual plant mapping. So, if you want to pull information that's updated in your kind of system of record repository and get that into GIS, we have like scripts that can do that, both overnight updates and then, every hour pushing updates from the field back to, certain repositories to keep the plant collections current.
Great. And then I guess to follow up with that API, since we've got probably about a minute left, could you give some examples of some of the databases some of your institutions that you've helped provide services for might be using?
Sure. So, I mean, it's really kind of across the board. We work with some folks that are just primarily managing their data in ArcGIS. We have a custom integration with BGBase. So a lot of the gardens that we worked with and that we showed at the beginning were kind of longtime BGBase customers. We have worked with some gardens that are, using IrisBG or Brahms. So in a lot of cases, it may just be getting that data, at some sort of frequency out of, that repository, out of that system of record environment, into GIS where you can work with it and then finding a way to get it back. So, we don't have custom integrations for all of them, but a lot of these platforms are, capable of that. And so, depending on, how every garden operates and, frequency of updates and other sorts of validation that needs to happen before it goes, from GIS back into your system of record are all things that, we would have to account for. And they're all kind of different for every garden.
Wonderful. Thank you. Is anyone else have anything they want to follow up with? Otherwise, I will let y'all get back to your wonderful days. All right, that sounds like a wrap. So we will see everyone at the next tea time or in the discussions. Have a great weekend.
And
Thanks,
we'll get the video uploaded as soon as we can. So
Yes. Wonderful.
Yep.
Perfect.
Good to see y'all.
Thank you
Thank you.
all.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.